hello, and welcome to Bookish Talk, the show that encourages bookish readers and empowers aspiring authors to write and publish their fiction or non-fiction story. I'm Michelle Keinan. I'm co-hosting this show. With me is my friend, the author of 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes, Devin Galaudet. So we have an enlightening show. In our Writer's Corner for the month of May, we're exploring Devin's passion, which is travel writing, so cool, and the nuances between writing books. Devin, what inspired you to become a travel writer?
I mean, it's a really long story, and I'll try to keep it really brief. But first off, I love travel. So I've been to 86 countries. I'm very fortunate to have done so. And I think there was an opportunity, and I think on a real philosophical way, I think we're supposed to know each other. And one of the ways that we do that is to have a passport and to travel and to see the world and be in some sort of situation where you don't necessarily speak the language and you still will probably need help to find where the shower is or your hotel or wherever. And so I think it is. I think this is a wonderful way to bring the world to somebody who may want to travel but may have some misgivings for one of 10,000 reasons.
Oh, that's so great. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching that are going to be jealous of being able to travel the world and get paid for it and do that for their job. So super excited to continue to talk to you about that. In the Author's Corner, we've actually invited two empowering women. Laura White, she's the author of The Prosperous Leader, Walking in the Wisdom of God, inspirational speaker, and certified master Christian life coach. Leadership coach, speaker, and trainer with the John Maxwell team, and JaQualia Lynn, author of Before the Sun Rises and founder of More Than Just a Mom. Devin, can you tell us about our virtual library?
Michelle, I totally can. Today's virtual background is the Central Library of Oodi, which is located in the center of Helsinki. It was one of the biggest brand projects of Finland's 100th independence anniversary. The library is an important destination for Helsinki residents and will certainly be noticed among tourists as well. Matter of fact, I have been there. As a specialty, the library offers cinema, extensive leisure, working and exhibition facilities, sauna department, and a selection of up to 140,000 books. The design divides the functions of the library into three distinctive levels. An active ground floor that extends the town square into interior space. Book heaven on the upper level, and an enclosed in-between volume containing rooms to accommodate additional services and facilities within the library. This spatial concept has been realized by building the library as an inhabited bridge with two massive steel arches that span over 100 meters to create a fully enclosed column-free public entrance space, clusters of rooms grouped around the structure, and the open plan reading room carried above. Michelle, have you ever been to Finland?
I have been to Finland, but I was in my 20s and I think I hung out at some bars more than I hung out at any libraries. But the next time I go, I'll definitely check it out. It looks really, really cool. So inspiring news for writers. Belhaven University is proud to offer the Angie Thomas Writers Scholarship Program to freshmen entering the fall 2022 class as candidates for the BFA in creative writing. The scholarship is named after Angie Thomas, who's an author, writer, producer, and activist. Her books, The Hate You Give and On the Come Up, were New York Times bestsellers. In 2020, Angie released Find Your Voice, a guided journal to writing your truth as a tool to help aspiring writers tell their stories. In 2021, Angie will return to the world of Garden Heights with Concrete Rose, a prequel to The Hate You Give that focuses on 17-year-old Maverick Carter. Angie has also received many awards for her writing: the William C. Morris Award, the Coretta Scott King Award, and a nomination for the National Book Award. Wow, so impressive. The program provides one student with a 4-year scholarship covering tuition, room, and board. Amazing. Devin, can you tell us who won this year?
I can. It is incoming freshman Dee Holden, who is really, really fortunate. She will receive 4 years of tuition,
Oh.
room and board at Angie Thomas's alma mater, Belhaven University. Dee Holden is a U.S. citizen living in Yantai, China, submitted creative writing samples to apply for the scholarship. The university said this week that Angie Thomas took part in a video call on April 25th to tell Holden about the award. And she said, "When I read your portfolio, I was blown away. You are truly gifted. You are truly talented." Thomas told Holden, "For me, the best types of portfolios are the ones where I'm reading them and I forget it's a portfolio. I felt like I was reading a professionally published piece of work."
Mm.
And when we come back, we will meet authors Laura White, the Prosperous leader, and JaQualia Lynn, Before the Sun Rises.
Oh my God, I love that video. I'm so jealous. I want to be a travel writer. He looks like he's having so much fun, and it's such a cool job. So, welcome to the Author's Corner. Our mission at the Bookish Club is to enlighten, encourage, and empower inspiring authors to begin writing and publishing their stories by inviting published authors to Bookish Club to share their writing journey. Tim, can you please introduce Laura White to the Bookish Club?
Absolutely, Michelle, and great to be here. Great to be here with you. So I'm really excited about this. So as you know, I teach couples how to create lifelong relationships. So I'm really excited to listen to Laura. But Laura White, she's the author of the book, Prosperous Leader, Walking in the Wisdom of God. Laura worked in corporate sales for 30 years until Divinity, I can relate to this, until Divinity changed the direction of her life. She became a life coach that helps restore broken relationships, repair marriages, and teaches parents and teenagers to communicate better. Laura has started several support groups for women and moms with teenagers. She speaks to women to inspire them to recognize their value, their gifts, and their purpose in life. Laura's heart's passion is to help others reach their potential in life through their talents and to create lasting life changes. Laura works with clients who have experienced hurt, pain, lies, or trauma and brings them to a place of inner healing and freedom. What a wonderful journey. She uses and teaches the tools and techniques to create transformation that lasts a lifetime and to build better relationships in marriage, parenting, and work. How cool is that?
Wow, so happy to have you here. And allow me to also introduce JaQualia Lynn, author of the book Before the Sun Rises and founder of More Than Just a Mom. JaQualia is a productivity expert that mentors her clients on changing their lives with her talks and tools. Her signature course and productivity toolbox will enable women to prioritize themselves, yes, discover their purpose, and walk in their worth using their gifts and talents. As the course creator of the Productivity Toolkit, you will walk away with the tools to be productive, confidently walk in your worth and purpose. Welcome, Laura and JaQualia, to the Author's Corner. Our mission is to enlighten, encourage, and empower our viewers to write and publish their passion and purpose, similar to what both of you have done. So do you mind each of you taking a moment to share what inspired both of you to write and publish your books? Maybe JaQualia, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. So, yes, I wrote a book called Before the Sun Rises, and it's SON because I have 3 sons from 4 to 10. And these kids kept me super busy from the time I had the first kid until the third one. And over the years, my goal was just to make sure I was still able to get things done, to win the day, to take control of my day, and to make sure I was walking in my purpose. And a lot of times as moms, we get stuck with the name mom, and we're conned out of our identity. And so I wrote the book to teach moms how to eliminate that con of motherhood, how to be productive, and how to walk in their God-given purpose. And so I wrote it, and many women their lives are changed every day.
Yeah, I'm like just nodding my head. I have one child, but she's 3.5, and she takes up a lot of my time and energy. So I'm like, oh, it's so good to have you here so that we can learn from you. Thank you. How about you, Laura? Can you tell us what inspired you to write and publish your books?
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Yes, what inspired me was, I've been in the corporate world for so many years, and I was in sales. And then I went into coaching, and I found out that a lot of people were struggling. I myself were kind of stuck trying to figure out how to do this whole thing. And really, when we lead people, and as a coach, we're always leading people, we sometimes get stuck ourselves. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to inspire leaders that they can be encouraged, that they're not all alone, that we do struggle, but have a purpose and have a drive. And so in this book, I really wrote about how to really encourage the leaders that, yes, you can do it. You can keep going on. You can keep moving. And so really just inspiring that they do have talents, they do have gifts, and that they can move forward, not only to help them get really clear on who they are, but really getting clear on helping others that they lead and encouraging them. So it's just a book of really about, we're all leaders, right? Whether you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a business owner, whatever it is, we're all leaders. And so even though I said the prosperous leader, we're all leaders. So really the book can be for anybody, but really trying to inspire and encourage and empower each of us to move forward, that we can keep doing it.
Well, we're down with that mission over here. And, I find often, like, not only are we all the protagonists in our own story, but a lot of times when you are a leader, everyone thinks you're so strong, you're always taking that first step forward, but you need a lot of care and a lot of support.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can be hard to share, to be vulnerable, especially when you're uplifting so many around us. So Laura, thank you so much for your resources and giving all leaders everywhere this kind of like encouragement. Really appreciate that. So in terms of that, talking about vulnerabilities, would either of you feel comfortable sharing any fears or adversities that you might have gone through as you were championing yourselves to become published authors?
Oh my gosh, I would definitely be glad to share, because I was like, my heart's always been where I have 4 books in mind. This is one of them. And I like, who am I? Who's going to listen to me? You have all these thoughts and feelings, and I'm like, and then writing it and then putting it down to the very last, like, okay, this is it. And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? It's like, did I write enough? Did I not write enough? I mean, just all these thoughts keep coming in your mind, and it's like, you just kind of go crazy. But I always say, have a cheerleader, have a cheerleader that will help you too, because they're like, you can do it. You can do it. I had my friend Lucia that was just always encouraging me, like, you could do it. Like one time I always wanted to give up. I'm thinking, this thoughts of my limiting beliefs, basically. But she just pushed me through, and I was like, yes, let's just do it. So it's just that thought of really, one thing, giving up, thinking that you don't have enough material, or nobody's going to read this, or do I have everything together? Does it make sense? It's all those thoughts that you have.
I've definitely been there, and I can definitely relate. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure so many of us have gone through that too. What about you, JaQualia? Anything that you want to share in terms of adversity or struggle as you were getting to be a published author?
Oh my gosh. Listening to Laura, I'm like, yes, yes, and yes. And then one of my biggest pieces of adversity was I had never seen it done before.
Mhm.
I didn't have anybody in my circle who had written a book. I didn't have anyone who had ever published a book. It wasn't something that I saw growing up. And so I had to get over that hurdle first, that I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Like I had to tell myself over and over. And then just, because there's some personal stuff in the book, I had to make sure I wasn't going to get ostracized from my family sharing some of their business, but it pertained to me, and so just like Laura said, overcoming those limiting beliefs, really believing in myself, believing in my purpose and the reason for this book, and knowing that this book was going to truly inspire and empower women and men. I got some men who love the book, inspire them to overcome some of their hurdles. And so I had to stop thinking about me and start thinking about all the people I could serve. And that helped me to really overcome my fears and all of my obstacles.
Wow, that's really powerful. Such a mindset shift.
Mhm.
We have to be so mentally strong when we're putting ourselves out there and like our passions and our truth out there in the world. So thank you for being an example to any person watching that also never had anyone in their lives that did anything as cool as publish a book too. Tim, I promise I'll let you ask a question next. I just have one more question to So hindsight being 2020, can you each name a valuable lesson that you learned while writing your first book?
I'll say one of the things I would definitely do is have a professional editor. you know, I I had some great people who majored in English and journalism in college who helped me out, but I would definitely send it through someone who is, experienced in this area, because the editing was not something that I could do for my own book because it sounded great to me. So, but I would definitely get, a professional to look it over for the editing and formatting and everything.
That's really pragmatic advice. Good share. Good share. How about you, Laura?
Oh my gosh, I'm sitting here like trying not to smile so much and laugh because I'm like, that is me. I had to fire two of the editors and I was on my third one. So not to go to really think about who's going to edit your book, and don't go inexpensive. Go the route where someone's really knowledgeable and knows what they're doing, because it ended up taking like 6 months, which I wrote the book in 30 days. So that would be one. And I'd have to say someone that is there for your cheerleader. I mean, really, because you have those limiting beliefs, you have those days you just want to give up. And they're like, no. So really a cheerleader and an editor, my two top.
Smart.
Very cool. Hi, Laura and JaQualia. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. What a great conversation. I'll tell you, I could talk about limiting beliefs for hours. Change takes an instant. It's the resistance to change that could take a lifetime. So when we talk about getting into those belief systems, those are life-changing conversations. So glad you guys are sharing those with us. Here's one of my questions. If you guys don't mind, could you speak to our viewers and tell them how your book will enlighten, encourage, and empower them? This is actually our tagline at the Bookish Club here. JaQualia, go ahead.
Oh, sure. So enlighten, empower, encourage. That is literally what my heart's desire is, because I want you to see that through this book, you can shift your mindset. You can make your day work for you. You can eliminate distractions such as my 3 little sons. You can do this. You can live this life that you are working so hard to create. And you can do it in a way that you feel like you win every day. And specifically for moms, we're burnt out a lot of the time. And I want to help you overcome the burnout and truly enjoy the life you're working so hard to create.
Absolutely. And
Beautiful.
yes, mine, it would have to be definitely my whole passion, and everything that I do is to inspire, equip, and empower you to be all that you are recreated to be. And so in this book is the same thing that I had said before, is sometimes we as leaders, we get defeated and we have these struggles and obstacles and these limiting beliefs. So my passion is to really have, when people read this book, to be encouraged and know that you can do it, not to give up, overcome those obstacles, and just get up and just push yourself one more time and you can do it. So just really, my husband doesn't like to read, and he literally doesn't like to read. He likes to do Audible. And so when he read the book, he was just like, and it was very encouraging to hear from him. He's like, this is a pretty gosh darn good book. But for him to read the whole book, it was like really accomplishment. And then to hear people when they give their report and they're like, whether they tell you personally or they write it, that's encouraging to say, you know what, it was all worth it.
Yeah, what a beautiful story. In fact, what we realize that there is greatness inside of all of us. As I like to say, God don't make no mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes, as I like to say. So just the whole entice people to figure out where their greatness is such a great journey. If you guys don't mind, could you speak to our inspiring writers that are on the fence about writing their story, and what advice would you have for them? Why don't you go ahead and start this time, Laura?
Oh my gosh, I would definitely love to share on this one, because if I can do it, anybody can do it, number one. Number two is just start. what I did, and where is it? I usually have my cell phone, but what I actually encourage people is just take your phone and just start recording. Just dump all your thoughts out and start by that. That is a good thing because I'm more of a speaker than a writer. And so that worked for me, is just speaking in the phone. And then you can have someone put it all together if you want, or take the time yourself. But really, I want to encourage you, you can do it, because when you don't write, someone is missing out on your story. You can help and bless someone by your story. You can change someone's life, even sometimes save someone's life by writing. So don't say I can't do it, because someone is waiting to hear you.
It's so great. I know. I mean, we hear this a lot in the writers community, that we all have a story. It's just, motivating people to get that story out. But yeah, absolutely. How about you, JaQualia?
Oh my gosh. When I met Laura, let me just say, I loved her from day one, and I see why, because we're so aligned. When I would get these ideas, I'm like, oh, I should put that in a book, and I had all those fears and limiting beliefs. And so for our listeners who are like, I'm not sure, I want to tell you, just like Laura said, somebody is waiting on your story. And I was so afraid to put it out there, because I'm like, who's going to listen to me? And like Laura, you put me on a stage, I'm in the hot seat, I'm good. But when it was time to put the words into the book, then I'm like, who's going to listen? But I learned, one, if you're a speaker, you should absolutely have a book with you. And number two, the book can really change lives. And I went to a conference, and the lady told me, why are you waiting to write your book? And I'm like, you talking to me? And she's like, yes, people's lives are hanging on by a thread, waiting on you. You're a coach for moms, and that's exactly what they need to be productive, to figure out how to get things done. And she was like, and you're holding out on them because of your own fears. And so I want to tell y'all, put your fears in a box and bury it, and just really get out there and give everything that you have. Pour it out, because when we pour out to other people, we're making room for the new things that God has for us.
Right.
And the only thing I would like to add to that is the outline. When I wrote my book, the outline was really what gave me structure. And I'm so analytical, but just writing the outline is helpful as well. But yeah, just inspire us to get our stories out, and help us with the insight on what we could share to people. But changing lives, I that's, to me, is the most satisfying thing about what just changing lives. And you see it, and the way their facial expressions change. We're like The Walking Dead. There's so many people that have that blank stare in their face. You guys ever see that, right? And then when you give these people these insights, these life-changing insights, it's so pivotal for their lives. But just one other thing, if you guys don't mind, can you share us your vision for this year, for your transformation groups, and how they can participate?
Well, mine is called the Inner Circle Growth Academy, where I help women scale and grow their business. And so my goal in this year is to reach 1,000 women to really upscale their business. Because sometimes when you're growing your business, you're overwhelmed. You have this limiting belief. You have the syndrome of like, oh, nobody's going to listen to me. I don't have what it takes. And so I want to help women, because I was that person that struggled, trying to figure it out in years, spending thousands of dollars with coaches and courses, trying to figure out how to grow a business, successful business. And now I make it very easy and simple. And so my goal this year is to help women not to struggle, to make it very simple for them to grow their business using social media.
Visions are so powerful. I'll tell you what, when you have that number, when you quantify, I'm a math guy. When you could quantify that gives you such a powerful target to work towards. How about you, JaQualia?
So my group is called the More Than Just a Mom Exclusive Mastermind, and we bring moms together who are business minded and really trying to change their lifestyle physically, mentally, and in their business, and increase their finances. And so we get together every single month, the first 3 Tuesdays of every month, and we mastermind, and we spotlight different moms and their businesses. We talk about the struggles of motherhood and entrepreneurship, or moms who are working full time. And we really help you hone in on getting your calendar together, incorporating self-care, and really building that community of moms who can help you get to the next level in your life. And so we've got moms with new babies, pregnant moms, aspiring moms, and we've got moms who are very seasoned. So they give us some wisdom that us moms with young kids we haven't figured it out yet. And so we get together, we pour into each other, we meet 3 times a month, and we just help you to scale your business, really have some clarity on what it is. We do our vision boards, and we do this every month for the last, 3 years now, to help you to really gather your ideas and create more than just babies.
Oh, I love that. You guys are so inspiring. I have my dirty secret. I actually have a book that's 70% written that's just sitting in Google Docs, and I'm just like, oh, I'll get to it. But this conversation, I know, I'm like, you guys, are you talking to me right now?
You can do it. You can do
I
it.
have all my excuses. I have a toddler. I have my business. You guys are just calling me out right now. So I have some actions I'm going to need to take when we finish this episode.
I'll be your cheerleader. I
was going to say, I'll cheer you on.
Okay. All right. Well, I got my team. Thank you. Thank you.
You can do it.
Love it.
So tell everybody, how can we get a copy of your books, and how do we follow you guys on social media?
You can follow me. All my social media is Life Coach Laura White, even though I'm a life and business coach, but that's how I set it up 12 years ago. Life Coach Laura White. My email is laura@lifecoachlw.com. You can order my book. It's on 400 different places. So Amazon and Barnes & Noble would be the top 2, and The Prosperous Leader. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
You can find me on social media at JaQualia Lynn. I'm JaQualia Lynn everywhere. And you can also order my book on Amazon, or go straight to my website, JaQualiaLynn.com, where you'll get a signed copy of my book.
Amazing. This has been such an empowering, encouraging, and enlightening conversation. I know for me, so I'm sure for everybody else tuning in. You guys are so inspiring. Thank you so much for putting your fears in a box, and for having and being all the cheerleaders that everyone needs, and for being out here with your stories. Thank you so much. This was awesome. All right, when we come back, we're going to learn the what and the how of travel writing.
An empowering quote from Nelson Mandela stated, "The greatest glory in life lies not in never failing, but rising every time you fall." Encourage, enlighten, and empower.
Mi nombre es Eliana Barrionuevo, crecí en Buenos Aires, aunque ahora estoy viviendo en Tailandia. Soy redactora freelance y blogger de viajes para darvueltaalmundo.com. Mi profesión nació como un hobby. No le daba mucha importancia al principio porque para mí la idea de escribir y viajar y vivir de esa manera era casi imposible, como un sueño. Cuando vivía en Buenos Aires, estudiaba en la universidad y trabajaba en una oficina. Tenía buenos trabajos y un ritmo un poco alocado de vida. De a poco fui descubriendo el mundo freelance y con él la posibilidad de trabajar y viajar al mismo tiempo. Yo escribía, que es lo que más me gusta hacer, y algunos clientes me contactaron a partir de ver mi trabajo. Incluso recibí una invitación para recorrer Marruecos a cambio de que relate la experiencia. Así fue como hice mis primeras ganancias a partir de las cosas que más me apasionan, que son viajar y escribir. En mi blog soy la escritora, fotógrafa, community manager y diseñadora. Básicamente mi empresa soy yo. Cuando empecé a tener más clientes me di cuenta que iba a necesitar una forma de cobrar y retirar el dinero en todo el mundo que no me implique ataduras ni gastos mensuales. Navegando en sitios para freelancers descubrí Payoneer y decidí probarla. Payoneer me dio la flexibilidad que necesitaba en la forma de pago y ayudó al crecimiento de mi proyecto al permitirme trabajar con clientes de cualquier país. Sin Payoneer no sabría cómo manejar mis finanzas y hubiera perdido muchos clientes por no poder brindarles una opción de pago. De Payoneer amo la libertad que me da de usarla en todo el mundo y que me da una solución para mi vida como nómada digital.
All right, we are back and welcome to the Writer's Corner. Our mission in the Ask Devin segment is to encourage and enlighten you on freelance travel writing. So in the month of May, we're honored to have co-host Devin Galaudet, editor at In the Know Traveler, sharing his genre of travel writing. Travel writing is widely considered a hybrid genre, fusing factual reportage with fictional technique, on-the-spot observation with recollections in tranquility, scientific detail with poetic allusion, verbal description with visual illustration, willing and ready to share his passion for freelance and travel writing. Devin, what does being a freelance travel writer mean to you, and why do you love it so much?
You know, I gotta say, there's so many different levels to it. I mean, I think you're bringing the world closer to people who may be inspired to travel. I think experiencing different cultures is something, when we talk about enlighten, empower, and inspire, this does all of that. It really is like, I have friends all over the world. And it's our commonality of humanity that really makes everything sort of jive. It broadens what you understand about the world, because it's coming from, like, you know, if you were to go to Japan right now, from, like, if you were to kind of have a telescope and look down at Tokyo as an example, you would see a place that would be very Western. It would have a very, you know, Western sensibility in terms of the way it looked and appeared, in terms of amenities. But when you understand that that Buddhism and Shintoism is sort of like a foundational core of what Japan is, and then understanding that the West is kind of Judeo-Christian, and this isn't a good or a bad or right or wrong thing, it's a different thing.
Right.
Japan is a tapestry of experiences that you're not going to find in Europe or in North America. It's just not going to happen. So the notion of travel and writing about it, I mean, I can't think of anything better than that. It is, and again, you know, I've had this wonderful opportunity to go around the world and to go to places like Japan, and then bring a little corner of that back, not only to just readers, but me personally. It's broadened my horizon. It's changed the way I view the world overall. And I would argue for the far better.
Wow, you must have so many stories, right? Like, you're writing, but I'm sure that aside from what you can write about, you have a million different stories. And
I would, seriously, I don't even know where to begin, because there's so many experiences, and frequently, and I'll probably touch upon this a little bit later, but there's so many stories of where, like, oh, that changed my life. Oh, that changed my life. It may not be an article, it may not be a book, but it's something that really gets to you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, to be able to have a profession that touches your heart and makes your life better, and that then you can share that with so many people around the world that may or may not be able to have those same opportunities. So I just wanted to share for viewers a little history on travel writing. So during the years between 1780 and 1840, periodical reviews and circulating libraries customarily listed travels and tours among voyages and travels. Writer Chef Rogers observed, travel writing was probably the most self-consciously print-informed genre of the period. Travel writings both reflected and reinforced a cultural consciousness in which mobility, observation, curiosity, and imagination became qualities fundamental to a liberal understanding of the world. So, can you explain the three types of travel writing, which are freelance journalism, blogging, and book writing, and which one are you mostly in?
So I'm actually two of the three, but I wanted to say that when you talk about freelance journalism, basically what you're saying is I'm going to go write for a magazine, I'm going to go write for a newspaper, something like that. Now, there's also sort of like, I'm a journalist, and that frequently would suggest that you are actually hired permanently. The freelance part means that you could go write for any magazine or any newspaper that accepts freelance journalism. And for the most part, that's all of them, especially with travel writing. As an example, if you have, let's say, and I do, I've had an online travel magazine called In the Know Traveler for, closing in on 18 years now. I get writers all the time, in part because A small staff can't be everywhere in the world all at once experiencing things. So what that means, particularly when you're writing travel, is that anywhere I go, there's a high likelihood that they don't have somebody that's stationed in Istanbul or in Kyoto or in one of the million great places around the world. So freelance journalism just basically means you can write for somebody else. Blogging is kind of when you're like, okay, I'm going to be my own boss and I'm going to play with the website and I'm going to be the thing. And maybe I'm going to have other writers write for me, which is what I've done for many years. But mostly you're going to take the reins and you're going to handle all the stuff that allows you to write about travel. And just as a point of reference is that if, let's say, you live in Cincinnati, you could write a blog just about Cincinnati and keep yourself busy and just go to restaurants and tourism attractions and places around Cincinnati. That would be great. And you could keep yourself busy for a very, very long time. Or you could actively look to travel to different places around the world and sell individual articles. Then finally, there are books. And there's kind of certainly more than one type of book. But basically what you're talking about, A, is long form about a particular subject. There are guides, which is one type of book. You'll see that like Planet or Moon or Let's Go if you're old school like me. Or you could write your experience of travel in sort of a more of a general way. In other words, earlier in this episode, we had something on People Year, who, by the way, is a rock star travel writer. And if you didn't see what he had to say about travel and writing, I highly recommend that you go to e16tv.com to re-review what he said. It's brilliant. So there's not much I can add to that. But the idea is that you may take a particular subject on travel and perhaps your experience of it and expound upon it. Whereas guide writing is very much make a left at the crooked tree if you want to find the haunted magic, that kind of stuff, right? It's much more about logistics rather than your editorialized experience. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. What's coming up for me is actually something that was mentioned in our last segment about how both of the writers said they had this fear, like, who's going to want to listen to me? Like, who's going to want to read my story? What do you think about that when you're doing travel writing? Like, is it about having like the best experience possible? Like, or is it just about just sharing the truth of what you're going through so others can live vicariously through you?
So it's a combination of things because yes, do you want to present the best side of travel? Of course you do, because really, I think for us to get to know each other, you have to give somebody a reason to do that. But, you know, when I think of travel, I think of travail, which means sometimes there's going to be challenges along the way, right? We present the best side of travel, but we don't talk about is, you know, you missed your plane and now you're stuck in an airport at 3 o'clock in the morning. So those kinds of things happen. But that shouldn't stop you from traveling. There's just so many different ways that you can kind of carve it up and look at it as why you want to do it and why you want to explore the genre fully. And you know, just write your story. If you go someplace fascinating, like you're probably not going to write a negative story about a place and sell it to a magazine. It's just not going to make sense. But that doesn't mean you can't write about a story that may have changed your life, that caused you to reevaluate something and have it have sort of like a negative notion to it. You know what I mean? Like having a bad experience in Cincinnati doesn't mean Cincinnati's bad. It just means here's a series of circumstances. And your story on a deeper level may tell a universal truth that people need to read no matter what.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good way to put it. You know, similar to authors, there's also different types of travel writers, right? There's weekend warriors, content and social media marketing, roundups, best of lists, holiday and special events, side trips, destination pieces, travel and lifestyle, blogging, how-to travel guides. So for somebody that's interested in getting into travel writing, but they're not sure what area they should begin their journey, what advice do you have for them?
Just do it. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm going to tell you like a story. So when I had first started out, I had no writing credits. I didn't know anybody. And I had written a story that got published, and it was like the greatest thing ever. Like, it really resonated with me. And so I literally called up everybody that I knew, and I said, do you know anybody who does this? Do you know any publishers? Do you know any editors? And I got a name of a couple people, and I literally begged. Start somewhere, be reliable, show up, and maybe even write some articles. The idea is called on spec. So let's say if you do live, and I don't know why I'm bringing up Cincinnati, I just am. So if you happen to be living in Cincinnati, go find a restaurant that you thought was great and write about it. Write about it in detail that perhaps, like if they serve pepperoni pizza, don't spend an entire article about pepperoni pizza, because most of us know what pepperoni pizza is, right? We don't need that. What we need are the little details that go, oh, that's the pizza place I want to go to. Or there's an experience to be had in a way. And frequently what Pico Iyer was talking about in an earlier segment was that you observe, pay attention to the things, because sometimes you may see something that on the surface may not really fit into a story, but all of a sudden when you start writing that story, you may find that little kernel that really plugs in the gap that makes the story sing. So you look for pieces of information, things that you experienced and saw that that maybe not everybody will. Because that's where the editorializing, that's where really good travel writing really takes hold and changes your life. It's these little details, these bits and pieces of the human experience.
Yeah, which gives it that like unique flavor and makes it like uniquely you. And, I feel like if there's a theme or a lesson from everything that we're talking about and from our last segments, it's like, just do it, that everybody has a story, or everybody sees something from a unique perspective and has something to share. So just put it out there. So what are you going to share with writers next week that's going to encourage, enlighten, and empower us to blog about our travel?
So I think we're probably just going to start talking about a little bit more of the how. In other words, how do you write an article, and what does that look like? Are there, frequently we can kind of boil things down to a simple idea, but with travel, you have really a much larger palette of things that you can write about. So I think we're going to get into some of the how, and maybe we're going to talk about the kind of action steps that you can to move forward. But by the way, like I said, a couple minutes ago, just start doing it. In other words, if you want to see the world, it's easier than you think. Quite literally, one of the people that I begged who said, I don't need you. I have a million people who want to write articles. And I'm like, totally get it. But if you're ever in a bind, think of me. And he's like, yeah, but I don't need you. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But if you are in a bind, think of me. Long story short, he called up a month later and he goes, do you have a valid passport, and can you be on a plane on Thursday? And I was like, how much is it going to cost me? And he chuckled. So anyway, long story short, just consider the possibilities.
Oh my God, that sounds like a dream. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I just feel so inspired. And I always was like, oh, I can't have a job where that it's so much fun that I just get to tell other people about the way that I love to travel. But maybe you might see a travel article come from me from my next journey. So thank you for encouraging, enlightening, and inspiring and empowering me as well. Before we go to our next commercial, I just wanted to say that Bookish Talk is sponsored by Pivot Point School for Entrepreneurs. So when you're ready to pivot from employment to entrepreneurship, they will point you in the right direction. Visit thrivingwomennetwork.com to learn more about their 10-week online certification course and scholarship program that starts April 23rd. So when we come back from break in the Bookish Club, we will share our book recommendation. Stay tuned.
An enlightening quote by Albert Einstein. Strive not to be a success, but to be of value. Encourage, enlighten, empower.
So let's talk about branding yourself. What does that mean? I think basically it is visualization of becoming the person that you would like to be. So if you want to be a travel writer, you have to see yourself as a travel writer. You have to envision yourself going to wonderful places. You have to dream about it and think about it, maybe even meditate on it. Put it in your meditations. Intentionalize your desires and see how they unfold. And that's the beauty of branding yourself in the way that you want to be. So if you want to be, in my case, I wanted to be an adventure travel writer. And I'm from Alaska, so I'm a little bit more outdoorsy than the average person. But I hadn't really done any grand adventures until I rafted the Tachancini River. And then I started to really see myself as an adventure travel writer, going all around the world, doing these exotic trips and just having a fantastic time with life. And lo and behold, that has happened. That's who I've become, because I believed I could become that person. And you have to believe that you're going to be a wonderful travel writer, and you have to work at it. You have to do the things that I suggest in my book, get great trips for free. You have to build your platform, and you have to create an image of yourself through your articles, through your website, your branding on your website, your logo, things like that. But the most important thing, I think, is how you view yourself and turn it into your reality.
Welcome, Paula. And I think we can't hear you.
Oh, hey, I'm here. All right. Well, I am so excited to see you guys. It's been a couple of weeks now, and I have a great book to share with you. So let's just go at it. Today, welcome to our Bookish Club. In this segment, of course, is where we always share our personal development I share my personal development books, but share our book recommendations with the goal of encouraging you to venture outside of your comfort zone and really explore different genres of books. So let's start with Tim today.
Thank you very much. And Paul, it's so great to see you as well. I'll echo Devin's comments. So I am actually talking about the genre today of spirituality. And for those of you that word may not be a comfortable word, let me just say spirituality is nothing more than your relationship with yourself. So my book is called Pulling Your Own Strings by Wayne Dyer. So I'm going to talk about two things. First is Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is my favorite spirituality author. He's actually a Hay House author, and he's published dozens of books. In fact, he unfortunately died in about 2015. So one of the points about this book is just to be able to talk Wayne Dyer, go out and read his books. But this book is called Pulling Your Own Strings, and let me explain this. A balanced ego is not when you're better than anybody else. It's when you're better than you used to be. A concept that I actually learned from my research of Wayne Dyer's books. Something that I discovered myself when I forgave my parents when I was 25 years old. And all that means is part of the maturing process is realizing that you're the one in control of your own life. That is one of the big steps in your journey to try and like yourself. As I like to say, our person we spend the most time with is ourselves. So your journey is supposed to be, how do you like yourself? Let me just read the commentary of the inside of the flap. Wayne Dyer shows how each of us can stop being victimized by others and operate from a position of power at the center of our own lives. Asserting that we alone are responsible for how much we will be controlled by others, Dyer offers his practical plan for developing new attitudes towards the most common sources of victimization and manipulation. There's a responsibility to becoming an adult, and that's that you're the one that has to figure out why you're here. So this is a huge book and a huge author. And any of you that have that spiritual focus and want to learn how to personal development, as Paula just said, this is a great book for you to read. So thank you guys very much for the time.
All right, Devin, what do you have for us today?
I have an absolute classic. It is The Innocents Abroad. And here's a quote about travel from Mark Twain, who is the author of this classic. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired vegetating in one little corner of earth all one's lifetime. First off, obviously we're doing travel writing, and as far as I'm concerned, this is really the first travel writer ever who really brought things to life, where it wasn't merely just like make a left at the crooked tree. This is very much more about Mark Twain is enveloping us in a world. And certainly at the time he was traveling, the world was a very, very different place. So there is historical context to it. There is humor. As a matter of fact, I did want to read something from his preface, where it says, "This book is a record of a pleasure trip. If it were a record of solemn scientific expedition, it would have been about that gravity, that profundity, and that impressive incomprehensibility which are so proper to work of that kind, and withal so attractive. Yet notwithstanding, it is only a record of a picnic. It has a purpose, which is to suggest to the reader how he would likely see Europe and the East if he looked at them with his own eyes instead of the eyes of those who traveled in those countries before him. I make small pretense of showing anyone how he ought to look at objects of interest beyond the sea. Other books do that, and therefore, even if I were competent to do it, there is no need. I offer no apology for any departures from the usual style of travel writing that may be charged against me, for I think I have seen with impartial eyes, and I am sure I have written at least honestly, whatever wisely or not." I love Mark Twain. He is a brilliant person, and this is a great way to really just kind of explore the world around you. I'm going to have some more travel writing books in the future. And Paula, what do you got?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to follow up that amazing reading. It was like I was listening to Audible. Today, I actually have option B, and gosh, I have the book right here. It is something I continue to go back to. I had the honor of being able to hear Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant actually speak when I received a copy of this book, and it was all about they're co-authoring together, and starts with this beautiful story, but very a story of adversity when Cheryl's husband suddenly dies. And this idea of what do you do when your entire life is focused on one path, when you're committed to one way, and all of a sudden option A is no longer an option. And it's a great collaboration of Cheryl's story along with Adam Grant's organizational psychology background, where he talks about where you find strength and how you find strength in adversity. It is an amazing read, and I highly, highly recommend it.
So when we come back, we will tell you our final thoughts from this episode.
Actually, I used to work on Wall Street. I used to be a banker, putting in 100-hour work weeks, and it was pretty exhausting. And the clincher was I've always traveled since I was 3 years old. When my fiance came to visit me in London, I was working in London at the time, he saw more of London in 3 days than I had seen in 6 months. All I was seeing is the inside of the corporate, hotel rooms, etc. And people were like, "So how was London?" I said, "I don't know. I've been working inside my jail cell." And I felt really silly giving that answer. And I realized that, I wanted to see the world, and no amount of compensation was going to enrich my soul. So I decided to take that leap from a very lucrative profession to doing something that was spiritually and enriching for the soul. So I started extremely simply. I started small. I looked at magazines. I looked at really good travel writing, studied the likes of Don George, Pico Iyer, looked at the best travel short stories, and tried to build up strong narrative, and essentially wrote for free. I pitched whatever online and print publication I could. Then I started with small clips in the front of book sections, like US Airways magazine, then little luxury magazines in regional outlets. And then I started building up my portfolio for more national outlets. So from the regional, I am now writing for the Huffington Post and Forbes and outlets like that. So I think that, first of all, you have to really humble yourself and realize that it's a huge landscape. Try to find a mentor if you can, and look at every single piece of good travel journalism as a way to learn and really have a method. I wrote every day whether I liked it or not. It was a bit of a Virginia Woolf kind of discipline. You got up in the morning and you wrote your story. I scoured AP, Reuters, news releases for good stories that were relevant and timely, and I realized that I didn't want to go into breaking news, but I really wanted to do long form, like magazine-style reporting. A little bit more time to develop an angle and interview people for the story. So once I found out what kind of writing I wanted to do, then studying those forms of writing became easier. So I think you've got to do a little bit of brainstorming, getting your feet wet, trying to find out what kind of travel writing you do want to do. There are various forms. And then devote yourself to a period of study, pitch magazines and newspapers, etc. Don't be shy when they reject you. It's just all in the game. You just have to be persistent and know that a good clip is worth its weight in gold, and then build your portfolio accordingly.
Thank you for listening. Please review our other available content for help writing, publishing, and marketing your book. If you have any questions about the Author Learning Center, please contact us by email at authorsupport@authorlearningcenter.com.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We are always encouraging you, our viewers, to not limit yourself to one category of a book or literature, because you never know what you'll learn and what you don't know. You could have a passion to read, but if you only limit yourself to certain genres and certain literature, you might wind up writing or reading in an area that doesn't even really suit you. So keep expanding, keep growing, keep reading from a variety of literary categories, and be inspired by new voices and new ideas. You can also watch all of our recent episodes on E360 TV.
And you should watch all of our past episodes on E360 TV if this is the first time you're catching us. We sincerely hope that something we said encouraged, enlightened, empowered you to begin your journey to write your legacy book and just read more. It's all good stuff. Tune in next week and we will share more tips on freelance and travel writing and how to do it. Visit our website, www.thrivingwomennetwork.com, and subscribe or leave a question or comment on our live chat. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.